Good night, Papua New Guinea. Tonight I'll be very much discussing with you about an article that was published in an Australian media regarding a corruption scandal within the PNG NRL franchise board. While we are very much aware that the alleged corruption flagged by an Australian journalist or Australian media has got nothing to do with PNG NRL franchise board is concerned, but I've read many social media commentary by many Papua New Guineans from all walks of life, and some have raised concerns and say, why are Australian media journalists flagging corruption issues that has got nothing to do with PNG NRL franchise board, or that has got nothing to do with Australian taxpayers' money? And I've also read some have gone to the extreme of assuming and blaming Australia playing geopolitics with China just for the fact that the alleged individual's corruption involvement is with the Chinese national. Well, you are all subjected to your personal views, so tonight I will be exclusively discussing with you my take, my personal views on this regard. Firstly, let me start by saying we must understand that an alleged individual, Mr. Wapusong, is the managing director for Kumul Petroleum Holdings Limited, the company which is also the major sponsor for PNG NRL franchise. And we must also understand that the alleged individual, Mr. Wapusong, is also one of the directors on the board of PNG NRL franchise. Number two, we must also understand that Australian government has committed Australian people's taxpayers' money, massive $600 million, that's almost 2 billion Papua New Guinea kina, for Papua New Guinea's favorite sport to participate in NRL Camp 2018, and we are very much happy about that. For Australians, when they are putting this kind of money, when they are committing massive $600 million like that, you must understand that the first thing that will come to their mind is transparency and accountability in the way these funds will be managed by who. For Papua New Guinea, we take no issue on this. We can appoint someone from the streets, someone who is corrupt to the core without due diligence, and we celebrate his or her appointment as success and achievement. But for Australians, it's not. For Australians, if they are putting this kind of public money, all they want from us is a transparency and accountability in the way these funds will be managed and who in particular will be responsible for this kind of money. So Australian media flagging this, you must understand that Australia is not playing geopolitics, but Australians have only doing their due diligence on the people who's going to be managing the funds. And in this case, Australians or Australian journalists or media have done due diligence on one of the directors of PNG NRL franchise board, Mr. Wapusong. They have done their due diligence. That's what they have done. And we must be very happy that Australians can at least do due diligence on the people who's going to be managing these funds and managing this franchise. We cannot be blaming them for geopolitics or whatever you may say. Australians have done very much due diligence on those people who's going to be managing these funds. Number two, I am very happy of our Prime Minister James Marape asking Mr. Wapusong to tender so swiftly, asking him to tender his resignation as one of the directors of PNG NRL franchise. That's very good of Prime Minister. That's unbecoming of Prime Minister. I'm very happy for him. But the question that comes to me, Prime Minister, if you were very genuine in this case, Prime Minister, did he fail to understand that the alleged corruption dealings has got nothing to do with PNG NRL franchise board, but Prime Minister failed to understand that Mr. Wapusong's alleged corruption is got to do with managing Wapusong as managing director for Kumul Petroleum Holdings Limited. If Prime Minister was genuine, he would have asked Wapusong to also tender his resignation as managing director for Kumul Petroleum Holdings Limited and also as a director for PNG NRL franchise board. That would have been the right thing to do if he was genuine. Secondly, Prime Minister, if he can have that same kind of courtesy to call so swiftly or quickly ask Wapuson to tender resignation just because it was flagged by an Australian media and Australian journalist, can he have the same kind of courtesy when it's been flagged by Papua New Guinea media and Papua New Guinea journalists? This is a first of its kind I'm hearing, and Papua New Guinea will confirm with me on that regard. Many a times, people have raised, Papua New Guinea media and journalists have raised such allegations on our politicians, on our ministers, on our public servants who are CEOs, managing directors, department heads. Prime Minister never at one time have asked those people to tender resignation pending investigations. Has never done that. If Prime Minister is very genuine in this case, can Prime Minister also have a courtesy to tender his resignation as Prime Minister pending the investigation on his Paraga saga? He hasn't. Just because he was flagged by an Australian media and Australian journalist, Prime Minister quickly comes out and say, oh, well, I've asked Wapuson to tender resignations and we very much care about transparency and accountability. Bullshit. This is double standards. If you are genuine, you must also have the same courtesy to ask your ministers, ask your department heads, secretaries and CEOs. Ask yourself to tender resignation when it's flagged by Papua New Guinean media and Papua New Guinea journalists. Journalists and media from all walks of life, everywhere in the world, they're very much shame. If you can respect Australian media and journalists, you must also have the same courtesy to respect Papua New Guinea media and Papua New Guinea journalists. That's the right thing to do. The way I'm stating this time and again, because there were many allegations raised by our Papua New Guinean media and journalists, and you have never at one time asked your ministers, your department heads to tender resignation. And not just because it was flagged by an Australian media, you have swiftly asked Mr. Wapuson to do this, to tender his resignations. And for me, I see this is double standard. And the world is watching how we manage, how we do things here. We can't be pretending. We can't be pretending. Let's be genuine in the course we take. Thank you, Papua New Guinea. I'm very happy for Australians doing its due diligence on those individuals who are going to be on the board managing the funds they are putting up. And they have just done that. Thank you, Australia, for doing that. Thank you, Australian journalists. Thank you, Australian media, for doing that. For in PNG, our journalists and media does that, but many a times they have been suppressed to a certain extent, and it's always been the case. If Prime Minister can respect and respond to Australian media and journalists, Prime Minister must have the same courtesy to respect and respond to Papua New Guinea journalists and media. Thank you, Papua New Guinea.